Hello and welcome to an ATP Geopolitics. Little bit of an extra, little bit of a rant, just a little rant. This will be like a 5 minute video about. And hello, I'm Jonathan MS Pearce. Blah blah blah. Uh, I I often do frontline videos. I do frontline videos literally every day. And in my frontline videos, what I do is I try and give you an update of what is happening on the front line. That's amazing, isn't it? In fact, I do so by giving you my map, which is a map that I compile from lots of different sources, lots of other mappers, lots of sources, and source aggregators. And one of the source aggregators I use is the Institute for the Study of War. And I take on what they say, and that helps me to inform where I think the Russians and Ukrainians are in their front lines. So I'll look at the ISW and I often read it out to you. You'll see me read it out, and I'll highlight some bits I think are pertinent, and then I will adapt my map in accordance with some of those claims or other claims, other sources I have. Okay, so that's how I do it. Then I get claims like this, right? I just want to put this to bed, and this video will be my reference video going forward. So someone like this is ridiculous comments here. So someone like Man of La Manta says ISW is a NATO propaganda mill. Look who's on the board. As you feature an article written by Kagan, spouse of neocon monster donuts and snipers Newland, a review of their so-called sources reveals the usual pro-UK tweets. Okay, so this is demonstrably wrong, and I just want to point this out. Is this part? A review of their so-called sources reveals the usual pro-UK tweets and Western media mouthpieces. Well, I'm going to prove this utterly wrong. The neocons' echo chamber, utterly wrong. Regurgitating neocon BS simply betrays you as yet another moronic, uncritical repeater of the neocon losing mantra, repeating the unending claim that Russia is soon running out of men, missiles, and money, or lol, which we have been hearing almost every day, daily 365 days ago. As we watch Bakhmut fall and the inevitable collapse and defeat of the grotesquely corrupt Zelensky Nazi mafia, I suggest you exercise a little curiosity and seek out more independent assessments of the war between a country of 23 million, between that of 144 million, and then let me know who will inevitably win. Okay, brilliant. As if, like, seek out more independent assessments of a war between, as if the numbers of people in the country have any indication of the independence of any assessment. But then he's going to smash it out together with who's going to win. It's not really what I'm doing in my frontline assessment, so whatever. And then this, another one, Institute of the Study of War, and then someone else below says, yup, pretty much repeat Nazi propaganda and whatever the Western media is told to report. Okay, I'm putting this to bed now. Right. When I go through the daily reports, I do sometimes go towards and have these discussions here when they have their discussion points. That is potentially where they have more elbow room for having their own ideology or their own ideas, their own baggage to come into their assessments here, because these are generally assessments. However, they back them up fully with recourse to footnotes, right? Everything they claim pretty much has a footnote associated with it. But I more often, for my frontline updates, where I'm talking about where each side is on a map, I will go to their assessment of the front line. Let's just look at Luhansk Oblast, their frontline assessment. And you will notice, so this is the sort of thing that is said. Let's go here. So Russian forces continued ground assaults in the Kupiansk-Svatovo line on February the 18th. The Ukrainian General Staff, they're saying this is from the Ukrainian General Staff, reported that Ukrainian forces repelled Russian assaults near Hryani-Kivka and Sinkivka in Kharkiv Oblast and Stelmakivka in Luhansk Oblast. Footnote 36. So we know that's coming from the Ukrainian General Staff. The Russian MOD claimed the Russian units from the Western group of forces seized Hryani-Kivka. 37. So that's come from the Russian MOD. So it's 1-for-1 at the moment. A Russian mill blogger expressed doubts that the Russian forces could take Kupiansk, blah, blah, blah. 38. ISW has no independent verification that the forces did that. Okay, so 38. And then we keep going here. It says Russian forces continue, says Russian mill blogger, blah, 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 a mill blogger, blah, blah, blah. So let's just look at where are we here? So this is obviously Luhansk. We're going to look at 36 down to 45 in the footnotes, just for Luhansk. I'm only bothering with that because I can't be bothered to look at any more. Let's just try and put this to bed. Right, 36 to 45. Okay, so we've got 36 to 45 here. Remember that first one with the Ukrainian General Staff. Okay, so Ukrainian General Staff is that one. 36. 37, that's Russian. This is a pro-Russian source, General Staff. In fact, that's the same the source of that. Pro-Russian, 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 pro-Russian. Right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, although that's possibly both actually understanding war. 7, 8. So it looks like 8 to, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 2. Although one of them it seems to have a quote from a source from both sides. So 8 to 2. So that's a 4 to 1 ratio of Russian sources to Ukrainian sources. And you know, Kadyrov, I mean, this is in their discussion stuff. You've got a mixture going on there. You come down, you've got, you know, Wargonzo, Volposta, Wargonzo, Brachuk Sergei. So you've got Russian. I did another one just now that had like an 8 to 1 ratio. It depends whether that one source you put together. Point being that when you understand, so you can go to the Institute for the Study of War and you say, oh, who are these guys? And you go to Who We Are. And you look at them and say, oh my God, these guys are all neocons. They're all like war hawks. They're all pro US Army, blah, 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 blah. That may be true. You may be 100% true in your assessment of who the ISW are. So when you go back to this guy, Manamanta here, right, it may be that all of this stuff is kind of true, right? I'm not really bothered because I'm not using them for their ideas of what, you know, of war in general and this, that. I am predominantly using, although not exclusively, predominantly using them for their Russian sources say this, Ukrainian sources say this about where the armies are in Sinkivka, right? There is no. So when you go back to the ISW assessment of what's going on, right? It is exactly that. Russian forces continued this as according to the Ukrainian sources, and Russian forces do this according to the Russian sources. Ukrainians do this according to this source, so on and so forth. It's literally like what they're doing is saying this person says this person says this person says this person says this. You make up the mind as what's going on. And by the way, occasionally we'll say we have seen no independent verification that has actually happened. That's how I use the ISW. So from now on until the end of time, Man of Lamanta, Nikos G, Frankie B can take a long walk off a short pier because you're barking up the wrong tree. I couldn't give a monkey's whether they're neocons. I can in general, like when I'm talking about what's my opinion geopolitically speaking, and where does the ISW sit, you know, on the political spectrum. I might even agree with some of these like war hawkish neocon. I'm no neocon and I'm no fan of the neoconservative movement. But when it comes to me trying to work out what's going on a map, right? ISW are bloody useful because they are an aggregator of sources and they will tell me what the Russians are claiming. And therefore your criticisms are absolutely demonstrably incorrect because the ISW are footnoting their claims, and their claims are not opinion claims, they are factual claims by point of fact that it's a fact that this Russian source has claimed this, and here's the Telegram post, and here's the tweet, and here's the Russian MOD statement, and here's the General Staff statement from the Ukrainians. It is a fact they are claiming that. There's no opinion here, there's no politicization of that. You might get a bit more politicization at the beginning of their daily reports in these discussion areas, but they still are footnoting these claims. And when they're making their claims, they are referring back to, you know, footnote either themselves previously in previous assessments, and those assessments are based on footnoted claims, etc., etc. So get it right. and just stop with this. Oh, you've mentioned the ISW again. I do that because they aggregate sources, and basically, so the final thing I'm going to say is, if a source, here the ISW, can for a single day aggregate 93 sources, and where some of those footnotes actually can represent 8 different sources, you know, if they can do 93 sources in a single day, so I don't have to trawl through 93 sources plus all those extras, so that's probably 100. Look, that one, so that's like maybe 130 sources. If they're looking at 130 sources, so I don't have to, that allows me to do my work of presenting the maps. If I have to do the work of looking through 130 sources just so I don't use ISW, then I literally wouldn't have time to sleep. So just jog on. Thank you for listening. Rant over.